Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting Art of War video. Today, Michael Mann and I are breaking down 5 things you need to be thinking about when you write your lists for Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah, at the moment, list writing is kind of on all of our minds in the house at the moment. We're exchanging a bunch of lists because the World Championship of Warhammer is coming up. So we thought it'd be like a good opportunity to talk about what are the big 5 that we're kind of thinking about with lists and top 5 things you should think about as well.
Absolutely, there's so much that goes into writing lists in Warhammer. So if you're attending your 100th event or your first event, or if you're just writing a list to rock on down to the local gaming store, this is what you should be thinking about when you're writing your army list. If you like these tips, make sure that you like the video as well. You can also go down to the description below and click on the warroom.vhx.tv. That's going to take you to the War Room. This is where we put all of our high quality battle reports, our state of the faction videos, our meta breakdowns. If you want a lot more Warhammer theory from the Art of War team, the War Room is where you can get it. As well, on this YouTube channel, we do put out free content. So like this video, share with your friends, leave a comment, let us know what you think people need to know when they're writing a list, and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get notified every time we go live.
So number 1 is going to be, what is your list actually doing, or what are you kind of trying to achieve? So there's several different archetypes that really exist in Warhammer at the moment. There's horde armies, right? For instance, Mr. Nemo the Fish just won LVO with, was it 230 guardsmen at the end of the day?
It was too many.
Some amount of guardsmen, right? There are whole spam lists where you bring as many tanks as possible. There are combined arms forces where you're bringing melee, you're bringing range, you're bringing all the full 9 yards. So you have to kind of figure out, what do you want to do at first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at its base value, if you don't really know what we're talking about right now, is your list trying to shoot more, punch more, shoot only, punch only, or just sit right in the middle? Yeah. You know, you can put that on the spectrum. And then is your army trying to play a good 5 turns of Warhammer, or are you trying to be like a skew list of some kind? Are you trying to pressure your opponent all at once and win on primary, or win over 5 turns?
Yeah. So when you're looking at your army that you're wanting to play, so for instance, I'm looking at Space Wolves coming up. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of archetype I can play, because I actually have a few different options I can really play. So I can play the Gladius combined arms, where I have a little bit of punching, a little bit of shooting. What I'm really interested right now is that Stormlance, right? So I'm a little bit of a stat check. I have literally no guns in my list at all, and I just want to exist in like the middle of the table, right?
Yeah, your army really exerts a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So I'd call that a pressure list.
Exactly. Whereas like say your Raven Guard list is going to be a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does put pressure on the opponent, but I'm not really putting the entire army in midboard. I'm actually trying to play kind of a combined arms 5 turns of Warhammer. I just have some good tricks to back it up.
100%. So for me, when I'm looking at my pressure list, I want to find fast and durable bodies, and different armies can do this pretty well. For me, that's going to be the Thunderwolf Cavalry unit and the Wolf Guard Terminator. These units are both pretty fast in Stormlance, and they have that nice stat check that I'm really looking for, so that's going to be baked into my list from the core. Whereas for you with Raven Guard, you're really looking at like Centurions, because they shoot really quite well. And then what are some other units you might look at?
Yeah, because I'm trying to do this balanced Warhammer, I have a lot of units for different roles. The goal is to get units that are different from each other, not take my strength and take it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Instead, I do have some long-range shooting of Centurions. I also have a short-range shooting in Inceptors. I have some things that are far away and not trying to be on the objectives. These Centurions I keep mentioning, they're actually pretty important. They're pretty important. But then I also have units that want to get close and go contest objectives like Vanguard Veterans or Jump Pack Intercessors, right? Because I'm taking that mixed combined arms flexible army, I'm actually trying to take a couple of different tools rather than build up on one tool.
Yeah, this is a really good example of where I'm trying to be a specialist and John's trying to be a generalist, right?
And the way that you choose this is really up to you. This is very much going to be a playstyle thing and a what you have fun doing. There isn't one single, this is the best playstyle and that's what you should be doing, because unfortunately, Warhammer is just not that simple.
Yeah, if, for instance, for me, like I'm a big orc player, right? It doesn't matter how good Green Tide is, I'm never playing it. I'm just not doing it. I'm never putting 200 orcs on the table no matter what happens.
Yeah, and you know, all respect to the recent LVO champion, I feel the same way about Recon Guard. I like Astra Militarum, but I can only put so many models on the table at once, and I have a firm cap of less than 100. I'm too old now.
Yeah. So as you're kind of refining that archetype, we're going to go into number 2. What does the meta actually look like? If you look at the past 3 months, the meta looks actually pretty different than what it looked like right now. Knights ran dominant. Death Guard with whole spam was a very popular army.
And then Eldar was really good as well, and some of those armies got nerfed.
Yes, some of those armies got nerfed and some of them didn't. So previously, you really had to make sure that in every single list, you had, honestly, a pretty significant amount of anti-tank, right? Because Knights were such a powerful faction. And this naturally leaned into being good into Death Guard as well, right? But now you don't necessarily have to pack all that anti-tank anymore. Knights are still good, but they've really shimmied away from the meta. Death Guard's play percentage is dropping as well, and we're kind of seeing a very diverse meta at the moment.
Yeah, if I would say that I was noticing anything about the current meta, it's just the lack of things to notice. The top 8 of LVO was 8 different factions, which is a London GT and the Las Vegas Open had very different top 8s. It really seemed like it was coming down to the players rather than the factions as what was making the top cut of each of these recent super majors. And so what I'm currently thinking is that I need a diversity of weapons rather than overcorrecting into one specific thing.
For instance, your recent EC list that you took to the Edmonton Open had Mauler Fiends in it, and that was something you were not at all messing with before, right? And what was the reason you brought the Mauler Fiends?
Yeah, when I went to the US Open, as well as when I went to WTC, I ran 2 Mauler Fiends because we were in that Knights and a Death Guard meta that you were just mentioning. I really needed a way to crack high toughness, just holes and stats, and that wasn't something that was really available to the bread and butter data sheets of Emperor's Children.
Yeah.
So I leaned into something unconventional. The Mauler Fiends, I hadn't previously played them. I hadn't actually seen them much in the meta at all.
No.
But I decided to take them, and it turned out to be a really great choice. Over the course of Edmonton and the WTC, I played against multiple Demon armies. I played against multiple Death Guard armies. I played against multiple Knight armies. And every time I had to try to find a way through all of these holes, and the Mauler Fiends were actually crucial. But in the upcoming meta, I would say that 2 Mauler Fiends has gone from mandatory to just nice. I still like Mauler Fiends, but I don't feel that pressure anymore that I have to be able to kill these toughness 12 holes. Because frankly, I'm a lot less likely to play against toughness 12 holes, and there's less of them on the table.
The big lesson we're really looking at here is that you want to look at recent tournament results. You want to see what's doing well in the meta. I mean, the good old Reddit Meta Monday is a really great place to look at that, right? So you can figure out what tech pieces you really need to find a home for in your list, or if you can kind of just go full generalist, because that's kind of the meta we're talking about at the moment.
And you can also always look at your local meta as well. If you're going to the World Championship of Warhammer, you're going to want to look at a lot of tournament results because all of those tournament winners are probably getting invited. But if you're going down to a local RTT at a comic store nearby, well, what matters more to you is the people that live in the same, community as you.
Yeah, 100%.
So going to local events can influence that more than what people are doing in California.
And then kind of following up, we maybe got ahead of ourselves a little. We have to figure out what the basics piece of the list are at the same time, right? So number 3 is the basics of a list. There's going to be a few important roles here that you really need. The home field objective holder, right? Somebody's got to stand there. You need trash units that go and do actions. They are cheap, they run out and they die and they score some points.
Yeah, so I always break this down into you need scoring and screening units, and then you need each type of damage dealing unit that you want to bring, as well as sometimes support units. That's usually how I like to think of it, where, scoring and screening, I think of like intercessors and scouts is actually the same role.
Yeah, I can see that.
Where I need someone to guard my back, I need someone to guard my front. And the reality is that even if you didn't plan for it, you always have a scoring and screening units. You just might be overpaying for them.
Yeah.
Where if you don't take an intercessor squad for your home objective, are you going to choose to score 20 less points, or are you going to leave a Vindicator on your home objective? It's better to just take the intercessors.
100%.
Likewise, if you don't take scouts to screen, you will be screening. You just might be screening with your expensive units instead of your cheap ones, and you'll be a little bit sad when your opponent decides to hit those things instead.
Oh yes, I will take a Vindicator for free.
I would not offer it, actually. Scouts instead, hear me out. Beyond that, I like having, I break it down into shooting and combat damage, or and sometimes I'll say skirmish versus heavy hitters, whereas a jump pack intercessor and an assault terminator, they're both combat units, but
very different jobs.
Very different jobs.
Yeah.
And I kind of view support as that last role where you have those units that are kind of cheap, do a small amount of damage, but they give a rule.
Yeah, like a Tech Marine.
A Tech Marine, a Pyrovore. Oh yeah, a Pyrovore has a flamer. Okay, he does damage, but he strips cover, and that's actually what he's there for.
And different armies have really strong access to different parts of this role, right? Or they may be really weak in certain parts of this role. For instance, with my orcs, I really struggle to have a good gun, right? Like I just really have a big issue.
But when you find it, we all find out.
That's usually how it goes, right? So sometimes with my orc list, I don't really get to bring good range damage. I just have a lot of melee damage and a lot of like of those scoring skirmishers that we've kind of talked about before. Whereas other armies can look at all these categories and have a nice fine balance of all of it. So when you're writing a list, you should really have a good understanding of what your faction can really do for that.
Absolutely. And it is okay to build a list without one of the rules that we mentioned. They're vague intentionally. When I'm playing Astra Militarum, if I don't have combat units, I instead need to make sure that 1, I'm still taking damage and shooting. Let's be honest here. 2, I need more turns of screening because I need to make sure that I get multiple turns to shoot.
Exactly.
Because if I have one bad shooting phase and then I lose the finals of the World Championships of Warhammer because of that, well, that would mean that I need another turn of screening in front of me.
That could make sense, John. Another good example would be right now my Stormlands Thunderwolf list has 0 guns in it, has literally none. So, but I have excellent melee, I have excellent toughness on the objectives, and I get more turns of brawling in the middle instead of having to have access to those shooting lanes.
Yeah, and it's definitely okay to take different ratios of these roles in different lists. Just kind of be cognizant of how you're doing it. Don't get to the table and notice, I didn't actually take any guns, and then be surprised when you have to use your melee units to get through your opponent's screens. Normally, I like to shoot my opponent's screens to death, and I send the combat units after the screens are dead. If I don't have guns, though, someone's got to go kill the first 5 LR Rangers on the center objective, and apparently you're going to be doing that in combat, Michael.
I'm certainly doing that in combat, but that's the purpose of the humble Vanguard veteran.
There you go. You have an extra unit in the role. Let's go get the job done.
That's right. This is a really good moment to kind of highlight that when we're writing these lists and we're kind of discussing these jobs, we actually have an idea of every unit in our list and what job it's really fulfilling, right? So when you're writing your list, think about these concepts in mind and look at your units, be like, so what am I actually doing with this and why am I bringing it? Number 4 is going to be, what's your win condition? Now, big thing to highlight immediately, this does change on the matchup, but generally your army has an idea of how it kind of wants to win the game. And this ties in back to that kind of archetype we were talking about, but with a little more nuance on it at the end of the day. For instance, let's go back to my Stormlands Thunderwolves. I win the game by controlling primary all the way the entire game. I am the champion of the circles, and you don't get to stand on any circles at all because I'm fighting you on all of them. So I win through a score differential, not necessarily through tailing my opponent or out-trading them or anything along those lines.
Yeah, and you can do it through damage. You can say that I'm planning to keep your primary down. Your Stormlance does that. Funny enough, another army that does that is Astra Militarum, where you have these waves of transports full of bodies. You are doing it by saying, I have so much beef that you can't stop me from taking the ground circles.
Yep.
I am saying, I'm going to walk on these ground circles every turn, and every time that you try to stop me, I'm going to shoot you with 3 kicks.
Yep.
And so there are different ways to, funny enough, actually have a similar game plan. Now, we're going to execute in different ways. I would say that the Guard is a little bit more methodical and relies on me doing enough, whereas the Space Wolves kind of rely on your opponent not doing enough. And we've each tailored our lists in different ways to do that.
Yeah, and to follow on that, the damage plan can look wildly different too, right? For instance, the orc damage plan is like, here's my 50 orcs in the middle of the table. They're all charging you right now, and I need you to just not be here at the end of this turn. Whereas like a good gunline army is going to be using a combination of screens, like you were just talking about, and shooting you to death at the end instead.
Yeah, I love it when I can take a really good shooting phase with the safety and knowledge that if my opponent survives, they still can't walk forward because there's a lag of catches. That's the best.
Yeah, the damage plan there is just different, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're just trying to remove all your opponent's models from the table.
I find that those are kind of the 2 most common ways. There's the third in the middle, the old 5 turns of Warhammer stop. But either you're trying to score points before your opponent kills you, or you're trying to score points after you kill your opponent. And then it kind of gets blurry in the middle. And that's that combined arms 5 turns of Warhammer, where depending on the opponent, a nice balanced army can try to change its game plan. But realistically, my Space Marine list is not going to be as good as the Space Wolves are at the score all the points before you table me, but it will be better than the Space Wolves if it needs to kill the opponent and score all the points afterwards.
100%.
And so you can you can either pick the two extremes or you can live in the middle and pick in the game itself.
And those 5 turns of Warhammer armies, you're really going to look at those kind of fair, balanced armies, right? Leagues of Votann is a good example. I think Astral Militarum are pretty close to this.
Yeah, those certainly can be as well.
And then like Gladius Space Marines would be really reliable.
I actually think of Tyranids as one of these examples. That is a good. Most of the combined armies. I think Emperor's Children can do that as well, but it's its own plan. They do have a little bit of a gas pedal if they need it. Yeah, break glass in case of emergency and run straight out of airport. I do like it when that happens.
And then moving into our final point, what's the actual terrain format you're playing on? So we have the 3 big ones, right? It's going to be GW terrain, WTC terrain, and then UKTC terrain. I'm not personally familiar with any other terrain formats that really exist out there, but those are the big popular ones.
Yeah, you might see something at your local store that's different. A lot of local stores just play with the terrain they have available. And if you know that, well, go to your local store, play some games, and you'll learn.
So the big thing I want to highlight is that some models work really well on some of the terrain formats, and some of them just don't work at all on other terrain formats. I think the best example is like the Land Raider is generally fine on GW terrain.
It's a pretty good
It can maneuver, it has a good time. If you put it on WTC terrain, there are some tables, it just doesn't move.
Yeah. And if it can't drive in between 2 pieces of terrain, it has to go all the way around. And if that's going to take too long, well, that's it.
Yeah. It just removes that piece from being viable at the end of the day, honestly. It needs to be efficient and quick at the job it's really trying to do for that terrain format. I think a really good example I can talk about at the moment is I was really excited about battle wagons recently. I really thought they had a good job from what my list was trying to do. Thought they were point efficient, nice, tough, and trying to get it all done. And then I tried playing them on some GW terrain, and then I got really depressed. I couldn't move them the way I really wanted to. I found that they were getting attacked a lot quicker than I really wanted. I didn't have a lot of success with them. However, if you compare to Brian Sipe at LGT, he ran 2 battle wagons. But on UKTC terrain, you can actually stage in a way that they're just not getting shot at all, right? As well as you're staging in the middle of the table, making their value much higher than I have on them on GW terrain. And that's why those differences in lists can really exist.
So let's bring all of this together. I'm going to talk about a list that I played at a tournament recently. Actually, the last list that I played at a tournament.
Yes.
And I'm going to kind of talk about what I was thinking for the roles of this army. So I'm going to talk about the Emperor's Children list that I played at the Challengers Cup. This was a team tournament that we went to in Utah with Art of War. He had a great time, ended up finishing 2nd place, and I personally was able to win all 6 of my games with this Emperor's Children list. A very successful run for an army that I have been playing basically since the moment it came out.
That's true. Your run has been quite a long time on this army now.
I have been having a great time with this, but with this Emperor's Children list, I am taking a lot of different roles with the underlying theme that I am very fast and I can play flexible 5 turns of Warhammer, but I have a red button that I can press and go fast in case of emergency. I'm trying to set up an army to play a very cool 5 turns of Warhammer, but if I see mistakes, I'm fast enough to capitalize on it. That's the theme of the army. So it's like a pressure army that does have a little bit of a combined arms element. So I've taken multiple scoring and screening units. I have 2 Tormentor squads, one of which is going to infiltrate forward, one of which is going to cover the backfield. And then my 2 rhinos also help function as screening pieces because they protect the units inside.
Yes, our units like rhinos are actually a really cool example of a support piece and a scoring screening piece, right? Because at the start, some rhinos have special rules where you're going to want to like enable the thing, but after it's done the thing, just drive forward and score, screen, and do the thing.
Yep. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's only 8 points. I'm not going to cry if it dies to a deep striking Magna. Yep, but that's a perfectly good job for a rhino, or really, ideally an empty one. And then I've taken a couple of heavy hitters, as well as a couple of lighter skirmish pieces. So I have units like the Lord Exultant and Infractors that are fast, they scout, and they hit pretty hard through volume of attacks, but they don't hit so hard they kill everything.
Yeah.
I have heavier hammers behind it, which are the Demon Princes. And then I have kind of that in-between of like a Mauler Fiend, where I have 2 Infractor squads with Exultants, I have a Mauler Fiend, I have 2 Winged Demon Princes. And these are all pretty good in melee. I would say the Demon Princes are better than some of the other choices there.
Right.
But I can send out the cheaper things first if I only need to kill something this tall. And as soon as my opponent brings forward their Silent King, that's when I can send out the Princes to maybe deal a couple more of the wounds before I start chopping on.
That makes sense. That's a good use of skirmishers leading up to the big hits.
Exactly, yeah. I as well have a lot of shooting support. I don't really have long-range shooting options in Emperor's Children. I decided not to roll Land Raider for the 7th tournament in a row. And instead, I have gone ahead and brought my 3 squads of Noise Marines for maximum shooting support. When it comes to filling out this list, what I've done is I've taken the variety pack. I've taken Lucius the Eternal, so that I have a lone operative off fights first. It's not about, is Lucius the Eternal the best lone operative in the game? He's good, he's not the best in the game. But he is a lone operative and he's the only one I've got.
Exactly.
And that means that I wanted to have diverse tools. He's fights first and the only fights first I can take in Code Wraith Conceded. And so I've rather than saying, oh, I'm going to take the 3rd Winged Demon Prince, which is very good and valid, I've instead chosen to take the diversity of, I have a lone op, so that I can have this off if I need it. I have a fights first, so I can heroic and use it if I need it. I took the unit of Flawless Blades as well, because it's yet another skirmish melee piece that I can send out if I realize in a matchup, oh wow, I really need the Mauler Fiend. Integrate him with Cleveland's.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll send out the Lord Exultants first, because they don't need those integrating Cleveland's.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Then I can instead say, oh wow, I have this volume of damage was really important into this orc list. Maybe I'll send out the Flawless Blades first. They're not that high volume. They're not that useful to orc boys. And so I could really moderate which type of unit rather than, again, I could just take 3 Lord of Zolan units. Those are often the best melee unit for point we get, but not always. And so I'd rather have the options, and I can kind of make those decisions in game. And it comes together to be a really well-rounded list, I find, where I have a couple of screening units, a couple of scoring units. I have different types of melee damage.
Yeah.
And I can choose based on the opponent which ones I'm sending out first and which ones I'm keeping to the end game. Because I do find that Emperor's Children is an army that's all about getting to play the long game, but I can choose to play the short game if I need to.
Yeah, I think this is a really good example of a strong combined arms force. Right. You have a little bit of tools. You get to hit all of the categories at the same time, which is really nice and shows off the different jobs for different units really quite well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you find these list writing tips helpful. Don't forget to check out the link below for the War Room if you want to see more of this game theory content. It also gets you access to our Discord. We can interact with us and others. It's a really nice perk you get to have at the end of the day. Like, comment, subscribe, and then we will see you guys in the next one. Later. Bye-bye.